Okay, you know what this video is gonna about. You read the title, you saw the thumbnail. Today we are talking about young guys. Oh boy, that sounds so bad the way that I said that. I apologize. I'm only 23, guys. I'm not that old. But today we're talking about young players that are going to suit up in the NHL for the first time next year. And by next year, I don't mean next year, I mean next season. So give it like 3 months and we're going to be seeing these guys in the National Hockey League. Let's talk about first-year players that will be eligible for the 2024 Calder Trophy, awarded to the NHL's Rookie of the Year. Now, this is a very interesting distinction that we have to make every single time the Calder is given out, and we have our voting process done. Okay, maybe not our voting process, it's not me and you going out there casting the votes, unless you're a professional hockey writer who actually has media credentials, and okay, I guess you're included, but when we talk about the Calder, we have to talk about the guy who had the most prolific season as a rookie. Not necessarily the rookie who is the best. Do you see the differentiation there? Even though Connor McDavid was technically the better player than Artemi Panarin in 2015-16, Panarin had the full year played, and he had 70 points. McDavid only played half the year. Thus, from the perspective of taking a look at who had the better season as a rookie, Artemi Panarin won the Calder. Same thing could be said about some of the other future winners, that the player that won had the better season, even though the guys who didn't win might have been quote-unquote just the better player overall. This is why, when we go over to the Calder, a lot of how the voting is done is based off of the opportunities that these prospects get. Because if a prospect is playing bottom line minutes, he's not getting too much of an opportunity, he's not scoring any points, then okay, who's going to go out there and say that that guy had quote-unquote a good season, compared to the player on a rebuilding team that got first line minutes and got a whole bunch of power play time? Do you see the difference? Let's head over onto a tweet made by Cam Robinson going over how the youth movement just keeps on coming. This was published back at the end of June. I've had it saved in my drafts for a while just because I was like, yeah, this is a good tweet that goes out there and highlights everybody that's going to be available here. We are going to be treated to an amazing Calder class next season, Cam Robinson says. Connor Bedard, Adam Fantilli, Shane Wright, Brandt, Clarke, Luke Hughes, Simon Nemec, Matthew Knies, David Jiricek. The youth movement just keeps on coming. And the interesting thing about this entire list is that if you told me that any of these guys were going to win the Calder, I would have been like, okay, yeah, like that makes sense, admittedly. Now, of course, the easy name to pick out when it comes to this list of players and say, oh yeah, who's going to win the Calder? If I had to place a bet, I'd place my money on that guy. It's Connor Bedard. First overall pick, 2023 draft, Chicago Blackhawks, maybe first line center, who really knows? Like, he's going to play with Taylor Hall, he's going to have Corey Perry protecting him, he's going to be given all the opportunities to replace what Patrick Kane left off in Chicago, and Connor Bedard has no reason to go out there and not win this Calder trophy. Of course, knock on wood, everything goes all right and he plays, let's say, 70-plus games on the season. This really is his trophy to lose. We already made the video talking about whether or not he could get 100 points and how some TSN guys believe that that's the case. He's going to be able to do that. First 100-point 18-year-old since Crosby in 05-06. Like, that's kind of nuts if you think about it. But either way, Connor Bedard is pretty good. But all the other guys after him, I feel like they do have a good chance at finalizing themselves in this Calder discussion too, whether or not that's the second, third runner-up, first runner-up even, or if some of these guys don't make the NHL right away, they could very much contend for the Calder next year in 2024-2025. Talking about Adam Fantilli here, he's going to be going over to an Anaheim team where he pretty much deserves the keys to the car. Like, I'm not going to lie, I like Trevor Zegras, I like Mason McTavish, I like the young guys they have, but Adam Fantilli just did something that no other freshman has done since Jack Eichel and Paul Kariya. Lead the NCAA and be their best player at 18. Freshman year. He's gone out there and had just a draft season for the ages, and there's no reason why he should not be given any opportunities in Anaheim, a team that's supposed to be at the bottom of the Pacific, and really showcase the skills that made it work. He's going to be playing, hopefully, with a guy like Trevor Zegras on the power play. Their passing, their playmaking can play off of each other very well. Zegras, of course, with the playmaking, the puck skills, the niftiness, and Adam Fantilli with the awareness to make sure everything goes on well around them. This could be a really nice pairing, and if you link this up with a Jamie Drysdale, who knows how far you're going to be able to go. Heading over to the next name, Shane Wright. Now, Wright is in a very peculiar spot, and we had talked about this a few weeks ago, how some Seattle Kraken fans don't even know what the plan is for this guy. Give him a full-time cup of coffee in the NHL, 82 games, burn off that first year, that ELC, or send him back down to the OHL because he's not good enough. Who really knows? There still is a very strange discussion going on about Wright and what the future holds for him in the short term, but long story short, if he actually got that opportunity, let's say the Kraken, who are a very good team, gave this guy middle 6 minutes, I wouldn't be surprised if Shane Wright had himself a season that was considered pretty good. Like, maybe 15 goals and maybe 15 assists would be a little bit underwhelming for some, but if you really go from OHL, AHL, World Juniors, Cup of Coffee, NHL, AHL playoffs, and just bounce around everywhere before finding a full-time home in the NHL in 23-24, and he has a season like that, I'd be like, okay, like, we'll get off the guy's back for a little bit. He had such a wild and wacky year that I think the development was sort of all over the place. If he goes out there and has a really good year, then awesome, but the Seattle Kraken are also a team that has a lot of standards for what they want to accomplish in the short term too, considering how successfully they performed in this previous season. If they don't give Shane Wright the immediate keys to the car, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the outcome either. So, if Shane Wright does not find himself in the Calder conversation, I wouldn't be surprised, but if he does, I wouldn't be surprised either, because he's talented enough to do that. Next up, you have the LA Kings' Brandt Clarke, and this is a guy who was just so gosh darn good in the OHL this past little while. He has been phenomenal. One of the best players in the CHL, period, as a right-handed defenseman. So, heading over to LA, this is the guy that's going to take over Drew Doughty's spot. He's going to become the number one. He is going to be a bona fide point getter for the LA Kings long term. He already had an impressive resume everywhere else he has gone. All that's left is to do that at the NHL level. And the same could be said about the guy after him, Luke Hughes with the New Jersey Devils. Now, like the Seattle Kraken, the Devils are a pretty good team, and considering how they've really improved their roster this offseason, I'm not necessarily too sure if it's fair to say that Luke Hughes is going to be given all the opportunities in the world, like some of these other guys on lower level teams like Anaheim or Chicago. If Luke Hughes was given more of a sheltered role with the Devils, I wouldn't be surprised, but if they gave him a stage, they said, all right, power play, there you go, you're playing with Jack Hughes, you're getting points, whatever, let's see what you can do. If the New Jersey Devils gave Luke Hughes a stage, I feel like he actually does have it in him to put up a really great rookie season. Maybe 40 to 50 points if everything goes right, and I feel like he really does have that capacity alongside of the other two defensemen, Nemec, Jiricek. Nemec is also on New Jersey. Jiricek's in Columbus. Columbus might have an opportunity opening up for Jiricek on that right side. They've needed that right-handed defenseman stud ever since Seth Jones left. So where do you go from here? Try him out? The guy was already a super great point producer in the AHL with the Cleveland Monsters. There's a lot of opportunity going around everywhere with all these young defenders, and realistically, as we have seen in the past, the Hugheses and the Makars, these guys can carry the Calder race. Now, back when Quinn Hughes and Makar were rookies in what was that? Oh boy. Pettersson was 2018-19, Hughes was 2019-20, that's when it was. Yeah, so 3 seasons ago, we had 2 defensemen just dominating it out, dueling 1 and 2 for that Calder. The year before, we had Moritz Seider win it himself, so there are defensemen who can go out there and do things at the National Hockey League level as youthful players. If you give them power play time, you give them a stage, you trust these guys to produce points and be better than some of the other bums that you have on your blue line. This could be a really good chance for a lot of these guys to prove their worth and find themselves in the Calder voting process as a result. Again, the Calder isn't necessarily given out to the top scorer, it's not necessarily given out to the rookie who is the best player. It's given out to the rookie who has the best season. So if Connor Bedard, of course, knock on wood, this doesn't happen, but if Connor Bedard goes Connor McDavid route and he misses out on half the season, meanwhile, Luke Hughes gets 82 games played and let's say gets 60 points, if he has the same amount of points as Connor Bedard, Luke Hughes is going to get that award because he played the full year, longevity is pretty highly valued amongst those who vote for this thing, and he's a defenseman. So it's not necessarily just boiling down to points. The season as a whole, all the numbers, the circumstances have to be included there, so it's definitely not an easy cut and paste decision when you're predicting it a year out before it actually happens, right? I mean, it's probably going to be Connor Bedard, let's face it, but all these other guys, Fantilli, Shane Wright if he's given the opportunity, Clarke, Luke Hughes, Nemec, Matthew Knies we didn't even talk about. That guy's in Toronto, they need a Michael Bunting replacement. Actually, no, they got that in Bertuzzi and Domi. Same thing could be said about Knies. It's all about opportunity, isn't it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. By the way, I'm sorry to all the Leafs fans that tuned into this video because you wanted to hear about Knies and I only talked about it for 2 sentences at the end of the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the 2024 rookie Calder class. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.